It is time. SBR Betting Roundtable, Wednesday, September 5th. Start of both NFL and college football, same weekend, ready to get after it. Got games for both the college aspect and the NFL game starting tomorrow night. And a guy, I think he'll be there, Donnie Rightside. Follow him on Twitter at RightsideVP. Donnie, welcome in.
Yes, and the good news is I will not be in the house for opening night since I now work most Sundays and are busy. I am a season ticket holder, so I have to pick my shots in there. But there was a pretty good profit in hand for selling tickets to opening night versus the Atlanta Falcons. I'll be there for the playoffs when we make it again, divisional round and NFC title game, though.
A hard worker, can't be going to the games. He'll miss too much off the field. I
Too
understand that.
much. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, man. His partner in crime, big man on campus. Follow him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. Jeff, welcome in, man.
Drew, always good to be on the roundtable. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being a part of it. Last, certainly not least, Ian Cameron. Follow him on Twitter at Babano. Ian, what's on your mind, man?
Yeah, what's on our mind is it's NFL Week 1. I mean, we've been previewing these divisions one by one, been talking about it, previewing, analyzing, surmising what's going to happen. We're actually going to see something happen. We're going to see games that matter taking place, starting, of course, Thursday night, Falcons-Eagles to kick off the season. So time to kick off that pigskin, get the games going for real in the National Football League.
Well said, Ian. Hey, Donnie, let's start off with you. Any changes you make in college football handicapping going from week 1 to week 2?
Well, I mean, you've played the sport before, Drew, and the old adage goes, and it's really true. You make more adjustments, your team gets better more weeks 1 to week 2 than any other week in the football season, preseason, midseason, late season, no matter what it is. So there is going to be a lot of overreaction, and sometimes with week 1 to week 2, you do want to play a little bit on the public because sometimes your eyes will deceive you. Those teams aren't as good as they looked week 1, and those teams aren't as bad as they looked week 1. If you take a look at Florida State versus Virginia Tech, who the hell would bet Florida State the rest of the year? But let's take away the 5 turnovers and put those 5-star athletes out there. They're going to score points. We all laughed at the 3 points versus Virginia Tech. There's going to be some games that Florida State racks up 50 to 60 points in how fast they go with the athletes they have.
Yeah, I like it. Kind of bet on the teams that might have not looked as good. Ian, what about you? What changes do you make from week 1 to week 2 in college football handicapping?
Yeah, for me, I always keep in mind who looked good and who looked bad, and you certainly want to make note of that. But at the same time, you've got to be willing in certain situations, especially games where you think you've got a team that has a clear matchup advantage over the other. If you've got a team that can run the football against a team that can't stop the run, yet the team that runs the football well, you think in this next game, played poorly last week, you've still got to be willing to step up to the window and maybe support that team. Even though they look poor in week 1, didn't play well in week 1, they could have a matchup advantage over their opponent week 2 that dictates maybe that they're able to bounce back and get on the right track. Those are the things sometimes that I look for because I always treat each individual game as its own entity, regardless of what happened last week, what happened a few weeks ago, what happened last season. None of that matters. I'm looking at the actual matchup on paper. So even if a team does not look good one week, but I think they can do some things against their next opponent that is going to bode well for success and set them up in a good place, got no problem coming right back with maybe one of those teams that didn't exactly perform to their level last week.
And big man, I know you know of the the UNLV game last year where they lost to Howard, then came back. I believe they were a positive ATS team after that. And you're up for changing your handicap, but how do you go about changing week 1 to week 2 college football?
Well, I think it's kind of everything these guys said already. I mean, a lot of it's just not looking at overreaction. I mean, finding some of those teams that maybe you look at like a team like Minnesota or not Minnesota, Wyoming, sorry. Wyoming overachieved in week 1. I didn't think they were a great football team. You look at in game 1, they played a bad team. New Mexico State's not a team that's going to make a bowl. They're not a good football team. They're just a team that was just not very good, frankly. Wyoming played well against them. They were able to run the ball. Then they step up and play a real team in week 2, and they get caved in. The same thing with a team like Hawaii. The whole world likes Hawaii right now. We're seeing this team. They're being featured. They're doing things. They're scoring a lot of points. But I've talked to Donnie about this. They go from being a double-digit dog, now they're a double-digit favorite. That's a big kind of change in what they kind of have to do. They still may cover, but I think long term, with the defense they have, it's hard to imagine them being a team that's going to cover a ton of numbers as a favorite. As a dog, maybe I'm going to look more towards them. Plus, Drew, you got to also look at another thing. A lot of kids are suspended in week 1. You look at a team like UNC. You look at a team like Mississippi State. Nick Fitzgerald was suspended week 1. Now he's back. You're going to have some of these teams that will throw out suspensions for the first game. Obviously, a big one with Urban Meyer. He'll be back eventually. So you got to kind of keep up on personnel and keep up on who's in and who's out, because a team might have struggled without one of their better players or something. And also kind of keep track, Drew, of quarterback situations. I mean, there are certain teams that have tried things. They're looking at things and things just aren't working. A team like Kansas State, they do not have a quarterback right now. They have 2 quarterbacks that just aren't very good, frankly. They struggled in week 1. Those are things you got to kind of build on and just kind of maybe bet against. Little things, just by keeping up with things that are going on, personnel and things like that can really help in deciphering things.
And Donnie, to you, off of something Big Man just said about the University of Miami, a player being suspended, their backup quarterback. Do you think Perry gets a shot, or they're going to stick with Rozier going forward down there in Miami?
No, Mark Richt seems like he's one of those Bible thumpers that if you're a good kid, you show up to church, do your extra homework. He's going to play you regardless in case the kid behind you is better, maybe doesn't think he deserves a shot. Same thing Ian can flip with the Philadelphia Flyers in the city of Philadelphia. Ron Hextall is big on, I don't care how good you are. You're going to carry bags for 3 years in the minor leagues. N'Kosi Perry's the future of this football program. It's going nowhere without N'Kosi Perry jumping over Malik Rozier. But hey, Malik Rozier is going to clap a lot in practice and say, good job, fellas. Great block out there. Then throw 3 or 4 interceptions with a completion percentage of under 40%. But he's going to show up in the weight room at 5 a.m. before everybody gets there. So he'll start the next week for Miami, it seems.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, Donnie. Guys, let's get into the games. We got 365, 366, Clemson, Texas A&M. Big one here. Just the 7 o'clock Eastern game. Clemson laying 12.5, 13, depending where you shop. Make sure to use SBR odds to catch the best number. Get a book that has the team either laying 12.5 if you're looking to go on Clemson, 13 if you're looking to take Texas A&M. 54.5 the total. Ian, how you looking to bet Clemson, Texas A&M?
Certainly not looking to bet against Clemson. I can tell you that right now. Even though they're laying this kind of points on the road here, I know everyone's going to say, okay, it's a step up in class from Furman, the team they played last week. But to me, this team is obviously an elite team in this college football landscape right now. We know they have the potential to win the championship. They're going to be in the playoff at the end of the year. They have one of the best defenses in the country. That defensive front can get absolutely after the quarterback. And I think they're going to be able to wreak some havoc here in this game. I've still got some question marks about A&M offensively. Okay, kudos to them. They racked up points against an FCS foe last week. Let's see what they can do here. Under the lights, bright spotlight, national TV against a powerhouse here in this game. Not saying Jimbo Fisher is not eventually going to have success here at A&M, but this is a very, very early time of the season. Second game into his career here at A&M, to be facing a juggernaut like this. I'm not rushing Drew to lay 12.5 here, but if given the choice, that's the side I'd have to play. I'm not looking to step in front of Clemson anytime soon. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, Donnie, you got kind of a lot of people think the best team in the nation going on the road, tough atmosphere it's going to be, but still it's not the number's not too high. It's kind of in a dead zone here at 12.5. How you looking to bet it, man?
Yeah, it's a tough place to play. I mean, if you've ever watched a game or listened into a game at Texas A&M, that place is loud and proud and crazy. And the one thing that you have to like here, this isn't your normal Clemson playing Texas A&M where, Sumlin's going to be the head football coach. Jimbo Fisher knows more about Clemson probably than any other coach in the nation. He's going to have those guys ready on what Dabo Swinney likes to run. But having said that, you still have to execute on the field. Both teams had layups to start the season. We'll see how Bryant goes down. But if you're asking right now, I'm always going to be a little bit contrarian to start the season and lean on the points, especially teams at home who are going to have 75, 85, 95,000 people there getting excited. Maybe it's something that you might want to look forward to where maybe Clemson eventually wears down Texas A&M, because in the first half you're going to be catching a lot more than a touchdown. Maybe looking at something where 7.5, maybe 8 creeps in the first half. Take Texas A&M. You get that emotion at home. Two teams feeling each other out and 2 pretty good teams at it. But I mean, look, we all know Clemson's one of the best teams in the country. They should win this football game, but that's an early test for these young kids going on the road.
It is. Clemson's a great team, no doubt about it, but it is the
Yeah,
home of the 12th man. That could have something to do with it. Big man, how are you looking
sure.
at it?
It's not a great number. I mean, if I'm getting 15, I'm taking Texas A&M, but this, like you said, Drew, is kind of that dead number. I mean, 33-17 gets the job done here. I think Clemson's very good. I think their defensive line's terrific. I wonder though about their secondary. I think they're still a bit young back there. I think they can be thrown on a little bit. And look, Mond is a decent quarterback. The big thing with them though is they want to run the football. Trevion Williams, they had 500 plus rushing yards last week. It's going to be much more difficult against Clemson, as we know. It's a tough game. I think you guys make some good points about the crowd there. Home atmosphere is huge in college football, and Donnie makes a good point with Jimbo, obviously knowing Clemson well. The number's just not good enough for me. If I'm going to bet against Clemson, I need 2 touchdowns plus. I'm not getting that here. So for me, it's going to be an avoidance.
Okay, fair enough, big man. Hey, we got another big one here, 347, 348. Georgia, South Carolina. Guys, a lot of people picking South Carolina as far as this is the scare for Georgia anyway, at least early on in the season. Looks like the Bulldogs laying 10 and a half at Intertops, 55 the total. Kind of the game, I guess you could say, of the SEC East right now. Big man, we'll come right back at you. You got any opinion on South Carolina, Georgia?
Yeah, I'm a big South Carolina fan. I like this. I like this football team. I'm going to go with them here. I like what they have. I think with people forget the coordinator, offensive coordinator Brian McClendon used to coach Georgia. He knows that defense well, and they're trying to go more up tempo. Generally, that's something that will give Georgia some trouble. That'll give any defense trouble, especially one that's a bit inexperienced. We know Georgia lost a lot of talent last year, guys like Roquan Smith and players like that. You can't replace them easily. And this team, this Gamecock team, they're at home. They're a new football team. They have a new lease kind of like on what they're going to look at. Jake Bentley's a good quarterback, and Debo Samuel, look out for this guy. I talked about this guy on previews. I think he's one of the premier playmakers in this country, really. I think he's a guy that can really give some problems to Georgia. This one's really just a feel for me. I look at South Carolina and I say, I think that could be a spot where that's Muschamp's big opportunity. For whatever reason, I don't have a ton of statistical basis here. I don't have a ton of trends. For me, it's really just a game that I think is going to give Georgia problems with the connection they have. The offensive coordinator, I think he knows this defense pretty well. I think he gives Georgia fits. I'll go South Carolina. I think they hang in the game.
He's a Georgia graduate. I mean, say what you want about Muschamp. He can coach him up on defense. Donnie, what about you? How you looking to bet South Carolina, Georgia?
Yeah, it'll be another good one there. Nice home field advantage. You're going to get some sandstorm right out of the gate. The crowd's going to be whipped into a frenzy. And when you're taking a look at sometimes betting early season, they're a good football team. They're at home. They're going to have a nice crowd. It's an SEC tilt. These teams know each other well. And some looking at Intertops right now showing a 10.5. So basically you're saying the road team, Georgia, can they? Sure they can. But they're going to have to win by about 2 touchdowns in that type of environment. And again, it's early in the season. Couple layups once again for both of these guys to sort of get out the kinks there. He didn't have any showcase games. Now they're going to come in there. They probably hid some stuff in the playbook, but I'm a big proponent early on. If you're not giving me 3. You're not giving me 3.5. You're basically going to have to go on the road in the SEC and put a tail kicking on South Carolina. I'll lean on the points. 10.5 sounds good to me.
Okay. You can find 10.5 at Intertops right now using SBR odds. Balbano, you mind conclusion here on South Carolina, Georgia, man?
Yeah, this is the one home underdog. I'd probably have a little bit more interest in South Carolina, but I'm going to focus more on the total here. I looked at Georgia coming into this season as that prototypical defense for years has been ahead of the offense, not this year. I think Georgia's offense has taken that next step forward this year. They've got playmakers. They've got a really good quarterback. And as Big Man mentioned, the defense lost a ton of key faces and a ton of key pieces and parts to that defense last season. So I was looking at Georgia coming into this season as a team that could be an over-trending team this season, a lot more than maybe they were last year. And I think you're going to see signs of that right here in this game. I think Georgia is going to have some success offensively, but at the same point in time, hey, Bentleys, they're good cars. They can be good quarterbacks too. Jake was fantastic last week against Coastal Carolina. He was terrific in that game. Very precise with the football, more accurate. And the point Big Man brought up about Deebo Samuel, you could point to his injury last year, really torpedoing South Carolina's season. That's really where it changed for the worse. He went down for the season, and that was not the same Gamecock football team the rest of the way. They get him back, an explosive playmaker in this offense. This, to me, sets up like we're going to see points, and the betting markets clearly agree with me. This total's gone up a bit, 51.5 to 55. It's 55 right now. Still go over the total. I think we get something in that, 31 28 kind of range. I really do. I think it's going to be that kind of game. Can get to the high 50s and get over the total.
But a little off topic here. I know you know music. Is South Carolina's kind of theme song the best one in the country?
They're talking about Darude Sandstorm, right? It's everybody uses that. It's one of the better dance trance. If you're into electronic music, it was one of the better anthems of the late '90s, and a lot of different venues, a lot of different teams and different leagues use that. So yeah, it's very popular. I like it, but it feels like I've heard it way too often. Way too often.
Wait, Big Man, am I allowed to play like a 10-second clip, or are we going to get in trouble on YouTube?
I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't do that.
You'll get flagged.
You'll
You'll get the game Morency. You'll get the Morency treatment. Yeah, flag.
I was banned from YouTube for 6 months for doing that. So I wouldn't do that.
Okay, if you just type in USC game like Go Cox on YouTube, it will come up. It's my favorite anyway. So anyway, guys, hey, we got the Degenerate Special Rice Hawaii coming up a little bit later in the show, but let's hit on a little NFL. We got Week 1 NFL here. Mr. Philadelphia Eagles in the polo. We'll hit on it right now. 4-5-1, 4-5-2. Atlanta Falcons, Philadelphia Eagles. 45 the total? Looks like the Eagles laying 2 at home. Donnie, what are you thinking? Your hometown Eagles can pull this off?
Yeah, I mean, look, like the old adage goes, and I say it on every show we have here, it's hard to win on the road, especially against a good football team. I mean, you can't shake a stick at what the Philadelphia Eagles did. Forget about their offense last year, even when they had Carson Wentz. Look what the defense did at home last year. It was damn near unscorable against at that point, giving up 7 to 9 points a game, it seemed like, as they rolled through, and that kept up in the playoffs. Hammered Minnesota with a great defensive effort, hammered Atlanta with a great defensive effort. They're going to lean on the defense here. Let's not take too much out of preseason here. Not a lot of RPOs that Nick Foles loves to run. They sort of held that out. You didn't even see any doses in the preseason of 3 running backs, the 3-headed monster. Jay Ajayi, Corey Clement didn't barely see a snap. And then Darren Sproles, the return of him. You have a 3-headed monster in the backfield. You are going to miss a little bit with Alshon Jeffrey at wide receiver. There's no question about that. You have an addition of Mike Wallace out there. You're still going to have Nelson Aguilar. And let's not forget one of the better tight end combos in the league now. Zach Ertz already elite tight end. Now you have Dallas Goddard coming in as well to supplement that. You have one of the best offensive lines in the league. I want to see what Jason Peters is going to be able to do at left tackle. If he comes in and is serviceable, they're going to be able to move that Atlanta defensive line around in this football game. Should be a fun one. It's interesting that early season, nice weather, 2 offenses that can get it going with an over-under of only 45. Earlier in the season, we tend to see a lot more false start penalties, procedural penalties. And let's not forget, let's see how they call the new head rule when you're putting it down. 1 or 2 of those penalties can change the dynamic in an over-under. A stalled drive at the 50-yard line now is rejuvenated life. A 1st and 10 on the 35 and going forward. It's a low number here. You're just asking the Philadelphia Eagles, the world champion Philadelphia Eagles, to beat the Atlanta Falcons that they already beat last year and arguably coming in with an even stronger defense this year. So I'll lean on something under 3. Eagles just have to win this football game. You don't need 7.5. You don't need 10. Win it by a field goal. They could do that.
All right. Donnie, are you surprised to see Nick Foles being named the starter?
No, I mean, you're taking the long approach. Now, we in Philadelphia are very impatient, but the one thing that we do like is we do have a Lombardi trophy now where you can say, hey, let Nick Foles play 5 and 6 games before the rock star comes back in game 6 or 7 if you have to even wait that long. If we would have lost the Super Bowl, there would have been pitchforks down there forcing Carson Wentz to start game 1 because we wouldn't be able to lose to Atlanta and live with ourselves after it.
Okay. And Big Man, what about you? Were you surprised to see Nick Foles being named the starter and any breakdown on the Falcons-Eagles?
No, I wasn't surprised. I mean, I think we know around here, I think it was wishful thinking that he was going to start week 1. I mean, from all indications, though, he looks very good. I mean, but you want him 100%. You don't want him close. You don't want him 80%, 90%. You want him 100%. Look, again, it's no respect for the Eagles. I mean, it's typical. I mean, it's around the country, disdain for the Eagles and disrespect. I mean, they're 2-point favorites at home against a team they beat last year. They're Super Bowl champions. They have arguably a better team this year than they did last year. Look, I know Carson Wentz isn't in there, but Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. I don't know if anyone's aware of that, and we just look at the preseason. Who gives a fuck about the preseason? They don't even play half the team, and they don't even give out any indication of what they're doing. No one cares about the preseason. If the preseason went away, everyone will rejoice and be happy. This is a team at the end of the day that was 9-1 last year at home. They've only lost 4 games at home under Doug Peterson, and they gave up 12 points a game in that building. They're going to be rocking in South Philadelphia tomorrow. Tickets are, I mean, Donnie knows. I mean, we go to the games.
Yeah.
I mean, tickets up top are in the 400 range. I mean, that's high even for the Eagles. Generally, those tickets up top are going for less than half that. This is a big time game for this city. They've been partying. They've been looking forward to this game. And this team is an underdog type of mentality type of team. And you know what's amazing, Drew? They're almost underdogs here. I can't and say I've seen anyone on the Eagles in this game. People are too scared off about a preseason that means fucking ugats to the rest of the season. Give me the Eagles. I think they win, I don't know, 27-17, 20-13, something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And I mean, is it a buy low opportunity on the champions playing at home here?
Well, all I see is Atlanta, 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 Atlanta. That's all I've seen all week long, just like I saw going to that Miami LSU game. Miami, 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 Miami. And how did that finish? So you got to be careful with that. I get really, really, really leery when I see stuff like this. To me, it's Philly or pass. I'm not betting the game, but at this number, it's only the Eagles for me. We have to remember something. There was no onus, none, zero, put in by Doug Peterson on that preseason, especially the walkthrough. Look at that game against Cleveland, and everybody's going to talk about Nick Foles didn't score a point in the preseason leading the Eagles offense. Who was in there in that Browns game? A makeshift offensive line, none of your running backs, several of your wide receivers down and out. Like, who did you put in there to make Nick Foles a successful quarterback that night? Nothing. This was not something where Doug Peterson was going into that game saying, we really need to see something from my first team offense. Not at all. He's thinking of the long-term picture. Get this game over with. Keep these guys healthy. Get ready for week 1. I know what I'm going to get out of Nick Foles. Nick Foles comes out and shits the bed and has the kind of dreadful offensive showing he had in the preseason in this game. Okay, then I'll get a little concerned. But until I see that, I'm not going to lose my mind over anything I saw to the Philadelphia Eagles in the preseason. I've got concerns about Atlanta in the trenches still defensively. You're going to see a lot of RPO. You got to be able to man up, get off your blocks. And sometimes that team's been pushed around in years inside. We know great offense. Matt Ryan, great pair of running backs, Freeman and Coleman. A great slew of receivers as well. We know Atlanta's potent offensively, but they have got some toughness issues in the past defensively. Going to be put to the test here. This current number, I'm with everybody else, could only back the Eagles.
And Drew, keep in mind, this is an interesting game from a Atlanta standpoint. This Atlanta team, I mean, are good offensively, but they were horrendous in the red zone last year. 49% of the time they converted with a touchdown. That was like 25th in the league. This is a run defense from the Eagles that will be top 3. They're going to have to find a way to throw the football and get into the end zone because they struggled to do that last year. And again, I mean, how long? I mean, Drew, you know this. Everyone knows this on this panel. What do they talk about when it comes to popular public dogs? It's generally a big stay away. This is a popular dog going into the Super Bowl champions and having to play the Eagles. This from that perspective also, I have zero interest in Atlanta. Like Ian said, until Nick Foles in a big game doesn't perform, give the guy some respect. He's been terrific.
Yeah, and what about the philosophy of, and it sounds like pretty much everybody is on the same side, but you and Donnie touched on it. As far as Carson Wentz being the number 1, for sure, or is Nick Foles kind of nipping at his heels here?
He's the number 1. I mean, Donnie and I have both heard. I mean, I've heard people calling in to WIP radio around here and saying that they should trade Carson Wentz and keep Nick Foles and all this, just ridiculous stuff. I saw yesterday then a radio station come out and said, if you could get the first 20 picks in the next draft, would you trade Carson Wentz? And 52% said no. So, I mean, there's certain guys here that for whatever reason, they see what Nick Foles did and think that he could do it long term. Look, no one's going to try to sell you a bill of goods that Nick Foles is a Hall of Famer or have done stuff like that. But look, right now he has to be the quarterback. But no, it's Carson Wentz. There's no competition.
And you agree, Donnie? I remember asking you that question in Costa Rica right after the Super Bowl, and you said no, Carson Wentz is better.
No, he's a special quarterback. I mean, for the next 10 to 15 years, and I mean, he's probably going to pick up 2 or 3 MVPs if he stays healthy and gets it rolling. He's an exceptional talent, and you want to take it easy. You don't want to be, foolish and get him going weeks 1 or 2, where maybe he makes that cut that he did last year, but it doesn't go so well in the knee and you damage it again, like an RG3 scenario, which looks like he's finally getting back under his legs. You don't want to do that because you're looking at the long term here. And again, you already banked the Lombardi. It's like banking that huge paycheck and saying, you know what, I'm going to do the right thing here over the next couple weeks and make sure he's right. If you can just hang around in it, let's just say the Eagles do stay healthy and Carson Wentz comes back game 6 and the Eagles are 3-3. They're the best team in the NFL. They can make a run.
Yeah, it makes total sense, guys. And we got another game here. Short number, 2.5 starting to show up. If you're looking to lay it with Carolina, -2.5, -120 at 5 dimes. Pretty much everywhere else is 3. So we got the Cowboys at the Panthers, 43 the total, -2.5, -3, depending where you shop. Make sure to shop around. SBR Odds is a great resource for that. Ian, let's get you in here. How you looking to bet Cowboys Panthers?
Won't be betting the side here, but I like the total a lot in this game. We're going to see clock moving a lot. We're going to see slow plodding offense, I think, on both sides. And I think I've seen enough from both teams on the defensive side in the preseason to think that their defenses are ahead of their offenses coming into this football game. I mean, for the Dallas Cowboys, they actually had a pretty decent pass rush through most of the preseason. Their offensive line has been a talking point throughout the preseason. Guys injured, guys, dealing with, symptoms. Travis Frederick's case, of course, dealing with a little issue there medically. So you look at this situation with the Dallas Cowboys, and this is going to be a run-heavy team. I don't think they're going to be loading up with throwing the football left and right. They've got to worry about this offensive line and their health a little bit coming into the season. This is going to be clock management, just basically run that clock down, possess the football, keep our offense on the field as long as possible with sustained, long, time-consuming drives. Carolina's offense, on the other hand, I think it's got the potential to be decent, but again, their offensive line, it worries me a little bit. But what I do like about Carolina is their defense really played well in the preseason, really well. Their first-team defense was good. You don't want to make too much of it. It's preseason, but they played New England in their Week 3 dress rehearsal game, and they really caused some problems for Tom Brady and the Patriots offense when it was first-team Carolina D against first-team New England offense. There were some issues Carolina produced there in that game. They played pretty well against Brady and that Patriots offense. So to me, I'm looking at this total. It's 43. It's already seen some under money, and I totally agree with it, 100%. I think this game is going to stay under the total. I don't think you're going to see a ton of explosive plays from either side in this football game, and 2 defenses that I certainly rate higher than the offenses to begin the season. So we'll go under the total here.
All right, good stuff, Ian. We got Teddy B, Steve, Paul, Courtney, John, Wally, Troy, all chiming in with different opinions on this game. Good stuff here from the chat box. A lot of people liking Dallas, actually. Some people on Carolina and the over, but the center's out, Donnie?
Yeah, Travis Frederick. I mean, they're banged up along the offensive line. When you take a look at this game, it is, look, there's over 60% of the bets, almost 70% of the bets coming in on Carolina spread-wise, and that's no surprise because when you just look at this game, like everybody's down on the Cowboys, and everybody's a little bit high. So, hey, Cam Newton's going to come back. They have a nice offense. Oh, look, I saw McCaffrey run the ball really well in the preseason. I'm going to bet on them. And you would be right to think that way just as being a public bettor or even just looking at the teams overall because when you come into the season with question marks like the Dallas Cowboys do. Now, look, Dez Bryant was addition by subtraction. I think it actually helps that football team that he's out because you don't have to throw it up to Dez just to keep him in the ball game. You can actually run an offense where some wide receivers are going to factor in and not disrupt your offense. The one thing that I think is going to hurt Dak Prescott a lot is Jason Witten, even though I used to call him the Tin Man because he ran straight up and I could run faster than the guy, but he was wide open on every play, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 6, first and 10. He's always open over the middle for a couple yard gains, 6, 7, 8, 9 yards to keep those sticks moving. But looking at this line here, it interests me because maybe something actually got through to Dallas where their game plan is going to be what it was 2 years ago. Our defense isn't very good. How do you keep the defense off the field? Let's give Zeke the ball 25 times and slow this football game down to where it's to our advantage and we can keep the change moving, keep our defense off the field, and keep this game close. If this game is maybe week 2 or 3, I would like to get a better look at what the Cowboys are going to do, but I don't like the Cowboys coaching staff. I know Jason Garrett's going to throw bombs on 3rd and inches at the 50-yard line thinking he's smart and then punt the football. That's what I always lean on. But look, this is a road game. Carolina's a pretty good home team with a better overall team to be than the Dallas Cowboys. This is one of those games I laugh at and say, this is why I don't bet very much in week 1, because if you just look at this and say, wait a second, Carolina -2.5 at 5 dimes to win by a field goal over the Cowboys, who are injured and depleted and not very good to begin with, this is awesome, man. This is why I love the NFL.
Week 1 for sure. And we got guys in agreeing with you, saying Cowboys head coach is a joke. But big man, finish us up with Panthers Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm on Carolina here. I mean, look, if it goes down and the Cowboys win, then salute. But listen, there's not really a ton of reasons I want to back the Cowboys here. First of all, it's a road game. Second of all, Donnie discussed giving Zeke Elliott the ball. I don't know how successful that's going to be. Carolina's a very good run defense. They were 3rd in the league last year against the run, only giving up 88 yards a game. You have Kawan Short. You have Dontari Poe. You have some big boys up front that are good against the run. I look at Carolina's offense, and I'm interested. I mean, obviously with Cam Newton, we always know they have some weapons there. I think DJ Moore is going to add a real nice little slip into that offense in the slot. Good player out of Maryland. I think they're just a way better team than the Cowboys. Cowboys have issues. They have the problem with their center up front, Frederick. They have some issues. I mean, who are they throwing the football to? I mean, this kind of reminds me a bit of the Giants' receiving core last year without Odell Beckham. There's just not a ton of talent there, really. Who's your star receiver? Cole Beasley? I mean, you just don't have a ton there. Yeah, we saw last year they really struggled. When they can't run the ball, their offense just isn't very good. And I think they're going to have a lot of trouble against Carolina, because Carolina will stack the box. They'll say, Dak beat us with the shitty receivers you have. I don't think they're good enough, and it's on the road. It could be a trap, but I'll lay the 3 here. In the first game, I think they've improved. I like what I see out of Carolina. They get the job done. They win by double digits, I think. Cowboys stink.
Yeah, they have some issues, definitely.
Points. Thank you. Go ahead, Ian.
No, I was just going to say they have some issues, Dallas, with skill position talent. There's no question. I mean, we know Elliott's great, but look at this receiving core. You've got, Terrence Williams, same old. Cole Beasley, same old. Allen Hurns has had some injury issues in the past. Offensive line issues. So I think they're going to struggle offensively. The one thing about Dallas, though, watch out for this pass rush, and that's the concern I got for Carolina. I lean Carolina too from a side perspective, but the reason I like the under more, you got Tyrone Crawford, David Irving, if he's healthy, he's a very good pass rusher, as we saw, but sometimes he gets injured. DeMarcus Lawrence, that's a good pass rush that Dallas has. So that Carolina offensive line, which still has some issues to me, going to be tested here in this game. And we know at least when Sean Lee starts the season healthy and on the field, Dallas has a puncher's chance to have a decent defense until week 3 when he gets hurt and then everything goes to shit again. It seems like it's a totally different defense without Sean Lee on the football field. But I think Dallas defensively has the chance to be pretty damn good to start the season. We'll see Sunday.
You know what's interesting about this game, too, is when you take a look, because you get like that Cam Newton effect, and everybody knows what you're talking about. Which Cam Newton do you get in games? The fully engaged one, or the guy looking like he just does not give a damn? Because I always break it down to, if you get the Cam Newton where he has the towel around his neck and tucked in, you're ready for a good game. If you get the Cam Newton where he has the towel over his head, might be one of those situations where you wait a couple minutes into the game and just do a live wager based on what Cam Newton feels like in the game. He's a hell of a player when he's engaged, but we've all seen Cam Newton when the game starts to not go his way, he sort of checks out in this one. Always an interesting thing to watch with Cam Newton.
It is. It's fascinating to watch him on the sideline.
See, I hate that.
I'll tell you.
I hate that. You got to have that same demeanor, rally around your teammates, rally around your team in the good and the bad times. I don't see enough of that from Cam Newton, and that's always bugged me about him from day one.
Happens. But, hey, big man, you made some great points about Carolina having a stout run defense and with Dallas being able to slow it down, like to Donnie's point. Would you look for the Cowboys to kind of be an under-trender this year, Donnie and Jeff?
Yeah, I think I think they will. I think their offense is, and I'm sure Donnie will agree. I think it's going to get bogged down a bit. I mean, like I said, when you can't run the football, I mean, what do you really do in that offense? There's no Jason Witten anymore. There's no Des Bryant. I mean, the old offense is gone. I mean, you're going to have to people step up, and maybe Michael Gallup can be the next big receiver in the league. He definitely has the ability to do so. But yeah, I think their offense is going to struggle. I think defensively they've improved a little bit, but they still have a lot of unknowns on that side of the ball. Their secondary is young. They have some real injury problems at times with. You look at Jalen Smith, Sean Lee, even Leighton Vander Esch, the kid they drafted. I mean, all those kids are injury problems at times. So I have some concerns about their defense. But yeah, I think overall they'll probably be a pretty good under.
Yeah, I mean, looking even at the first game, what do you have? Opens up at 44, now it's down to 42.5, 43 at 5 dimes. I mean, you figure that on is right because both. I mean, let's not say like Jason Garrett. You did lose some weapons last year coming into this one. You probably want to establish the running game, get Zeke as carries. But when looking from a Carolina's perspective, you got a new offensive coordinator that's in town. Maybe that takes a little bit of time to gel. And I just think both of these teams won't be that fast moving and be smart about it in game one. The one thing that you always like in game one is the actual stamina of these players. Look, it's September. They're playing in the South. You know, it is a 425 game, but you're still going to have sunlight out there. These guys aren't used to getting 90 snaps in a game. You're going to have some attrition, and then you get the mental breakdowns. Maybe you don't make the big catch when you should have, maybe in October, November when you're used to it. Maybe you jump off sides when it's first and goal at the 1 and push it back to the 6-yard line. A lot of moving parts on this one. 42 is not a big number in the NFL, but that should tell you some of the game plan going in. There's going to be a lot of running the football, but I think Dallas is going to be the catalyst for the under because if they play smart football the way they can with their running back, they can always keep a game close. But if you get Rockhead, Jason Garrett out there thinking that he's going to go play action again on 3rd and 1 instead of just handing the football off, that could change some things.
The one thing Dallas is going to need, they're going to need the pass rush to get home at these opposing quarterbacks because there's one guy in their secondary I would take on my team, and only one guy, and that's Chibodi Awuzie. I think he's the only guy that's pretty good in this secondary. Outside of that, Jeff Heath, I have no time for Jeff Heath, as a safety in the NFL. I've seen him burned way too much. I've got questions about Jones, the other corner. So to me, Dallas secondary is their weak link on defense. So they got to get the pass rush. They got to get to the quarterback because if they don't, he's got time to throw. They might find some open receivers down the field, especially against better quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, one quick point on the total on that one is when you look at Cam Newton and Dak Prescott are not air shows out there. This isn't going to be like a Drew Brees going up against a Tom Brady where they can just get after it. The one thing that you have to like, even with unders, and it sounds crazy, is mobile quarterbacks. Because when the play is 3rd and 3 on your own 35-yard line and Cam Newton or Dak Prescott picks up 5 yards, that's not a huge chunk play. That moves the chains, that keeps the clock moving out there. So just something to keep in mind. They're not going to really air it out, but they're good enough to keep the chains moving. And if you see an 8 or 9 play drive, 7.5 minutes that ends with a field goal, boy, that really helps you out.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Mobile quarterbacks can help the under in some ways.
Yeah.
We got Walter Trotter in here saying hit the like button. Thanks for that, Walter. And yeah, guys, if you're liking the content, please do that for us. It helps us out. Guys, we got the Degenerate Special and Best Bets. Donnie, did you want to throw anything else out? I know you know the NFL before we move on.
I'm really excited and looking forward to it. I mean, forget about my Eagles on Thursday night. I mean, there's a couple games on Sunday that you don't even have to have a money on, just being a fan. I mean, how great is that matchup going to be? Is Jimmy Garoppolo for real going right into play in Minnesota? You watch the Cleveland Browns on Hard Knocks. You get to know the team a little bit. Now they're going to show up and play the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then you get the other games out there, which you're going to say, how does Philip Rivers come into his own? Is Russell Wilson going to keep it up, and try to put that team on his back when they play at Denver? A lot of fun stuff to watch. Andrew Luck, is he healthy? The storylines are amazing week one because we really haven't seen a lot of football out of these guys over the summer.
I don't know, dude. It's pretty hard to watch this league without money on it. I don't know about that.
Even
week
Sunday
one,
night.
You can say week 15, but not week 1. Everybody's fired up for week 1.
Even Sunday night as we get to see Khalil Mack step into Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yes. How about the line moving that one down to 7.5 because they got Khalil Mack who might play 10 plays in that game. Way to go, public.
Hey, big man, Donnie brings up Jimmy G. I know that's your boy. Is he going to be all right with his busty friend? What's going to happen here, man?
Listen, Drew. Let me tell you something. Maybe I don't know if you have a ton of experience with this. I'm going to guess you do. You seem like a guy that gets some women in your day. Listen,
No,
Drew. When you
hardly.
have sex with a woman of that caliber, you just forgive and forget. I mean, you don't, guys like us, Jimmy, me, and we don't forget. We don't remember that stuff. We just move on and get to the next broad. It's forgive and forget. It's you get to the business and move on, Drew. I mean, Jimmy's way past that. He's been on 6 different ones since her. Come on, just a nice.
Has he really? It's not like his girlfriend. That was a one-time thing.
No. It's just a little teaching moment for Jimmy. He learned a lot. He's a better quarterback because of it now.
Ooh, all right. Well,
That
we'll leave
is
it at that,
intriguing,
then.
though. Jimmy G and that Minnesota defense colliding is absolutely something I'm interested to see. That's going to be fun to watch.
Guys, we got the Degenerate Special. It's coming back.
Yeah.
Had some success last year, and this one is kind of degenerate. I know Hawaii's getting some mainstream stuff, but it's still the late night, and we got Rice involved, so I think it's fair to call it the Degenerate Special. 397-398 Rice at Hawaii, making the trip out to the island. 71.5 the total now. Been bought up almost a full touchdown on that total. Minus 17.5, depending where you shop. Ian, we'll start off with you. Degenerate Special of the week. How you betting it?
Wow, that's tough because I lean Hawaii and I lean over. I don't feel I'm getting the value with either one. I thought last week was the week you wanted to bet Hawaii. I feel last week was the week you wanted to bet their game over the total because you were just getting better numbers against Navy. Numbers have caught up. I mean, I know it's only week 3. You've got to make that or third game at least for Hawaii. Not necessarily week 3, but it is their third game because they played in week 0. But you got to make that determination. Have numbers caught up to Cole McDonald in this offense? That's really the determining factor for me going into this game against Rice, and I feel they have. I mean, you're still not talking about a lights-out, tremendous Hawaii defense here, laying 17.5 here in this kind of game. So that's the concern for me. We did see Rice move the football better against Houston last week. Wasn't very good at all offensively for this team against Prairie View A&M. Remember, Mike Bloomgren's now the head coach of this Rice team, a disciple of David Shaw back in the Stanford days. I think they want to be more of a run-heavy, run-first offense, Rice, take some pressure off of these quarterbacks. And we've seen Hawaii give up some chunk plays on the ground here. So it's tough. I had Hawaii circled, the over circled. I got to make a pick. Obviously, it's Degen Special. We can't pass on it. So I'm taking a terrible number here, but I can't in good consciousness back and under right now involving Hawaii. It's a terrible number. I know it's 70.5 right now, but we'll go with the over as our official look at this Degen Special with the Owls and the Warriors.
Okay, you mentioned 70.5. The lowest I'm seeing is 70. Do you have a 70.5?
70's even better. So give me that.
No, it's 71. I'm sorry, 71 at Bovada.
Oh, 71.
My bad.
I see the Greek's got 70.5, but maybe it's moved.
All right, Greek at 70.5. I'll give it to you. I'll trust you. BMOC, Rice, Hawaii, Degen Special.
Yeah, I'm over the number if I had planned this one. I do think Hawaii's a bit overvalued too. I mean, Drew, you and I talked about this. You mentioned you think that Rice is a kind of a tough opponent for Hawaii. And look, it's what can you do to slow them down? It's not going to be easy for Rice. I mean, you had a game last week. You've already had 2 games. Now you got to go out to Hawaii, which is always a tough trip, especially if you don't make it on a regular basis. I think both, particularly Rice will be really knackered in this game. They'll have a tough time getting any stops. You might see a situation where Hawaii scores every time they have the football. Right now, Hawaii's just rolling. They've had good opponents to start the season. All 3 of these teams are horrendous defensive teams that they're playing. And look, I think Rice can move the ball. I think Jackson Tyner's a guy that can move the football. Hawaii can't. I mean, you saw last week even against Navy, and I know Navy is a different kind of offense, but I don't look at Hawaii and think the standout defensive team. I think if Hawaii can put up or give up, let's say Rice scores in the 20s like they did against Houston, I think this game will go over the number. I look for Hawaii to push 50. I mean, that's just what they do, and that's just what Rice doesn't do on defense. It's very rudimentary, but I'm going to look over the number in this game. Until Hawaii doesn't score in the 50s, that offense, I just can't really not take it over.
Here's the thing I want to say. I just want to jump in quickly on one thing. If you haven't been betting Hawaii overs till now, now's not the time to jump in. But if you're like Big Man and I, because I know we both had Navy Hawaii over last week, we won with it. We got a little money to play with. We can sprinkle a little bit on. You just don't want to be that Johnny come lately, that I'm late to the party. Oh, the train's left the station and I missed it. You don't want to be jumping out in on a totals trend like this or a totals run like this when it feels like it could be too late. I'm not saying this can't go over, but you're just not getting the value maybe that you were last week or the week before. Doesn't mean it can't go over, but be careful if you're just getting in on Hawaii over for the first time.
Okay. And Donnie, Degenerate Special, got to bet it. How you looking to bet it?
Yeah, at least we're getting a good Degen special out there. Usually it's Rice versus UTEP. We're worried about like an over-under of like 38.5 if somebody can get a first down. This one should be fun. The one thing you have to like about Hawaii, even though that number did jump up, 65, it opened up at Chris to 71.5. That's a huge jump. But let's take a look from a Hawaii perspective, why you should like the over. And I still think the same adage goes. In Hawaii, look, they don't have a lot of money in their athletic department. You can't just go to Hawaii as a big-time recruit to take the free trip and go. As you know, Drew, you have to commit to Hawaii before they even let you come on a trip out to see Hawaii. They know where their bread is buttered right now. They're not really worried technically right now about wins and losses. They're looking to get this regime up and running and say, look how much fun we have in Hawaii. We're going to score 50 to 60 points a game, air it out. What quarterback, wide receiver, or running back would not want to come play for us here? And if you look from Rice's perspective, they gave up 28 points to Peer Review and 45 to Houston. Houston didn't even wake up till halftime and got 45 points on them. But the one thing you need to have is a counterpuncher. Look, Rice was dreadful in the past, but they put up 31 versus Prairie View, which you don't want to take that much into it. But they did score almost 4 touchdowns versus the University of Houston. That's going to bode well. And the one thing you like about Hawaii, if you watch in the past 2 games, fourth down doesn't mean jack to them. It's 4th and 4 from the 44-yard line heading in. They're going for it. They're not punting the football. The more times you go for it on 4th down from midfield, only good things can happen if you stop Hawaii. The other team's at the 50. If Hawaii gets a first down, which they scored twice last week alone on 4th down plays through, at least over, I believe, 40 to 45 yards on both of them. So Hawaii is going to press the issue. They're going to hang 50 on Rice. And I actually think Rice is going to get enough opportunities to punch back. If you watch the game last week versus Navy, even though Navy did score at a decent clip, Navy's going to take the air out of the football and sometimes take 4 and 5 minutes to score. Rice is going to be faster than that. Hawaii's going to have way more possessions even than last week versus Navy. I think they're going to explode on the scoreboard, and that's what they do.
All right, so you're liking the over, Donnie?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a high 71's that danger zone, but Hawaii, 50 points? Nobody's going to be surprised when Hawaii hangs 50 this week.
I'm not either. I guess I kind of am a little bit less confident in Rice being able to score a lot because I did see Houston's defense kind of stop them there in the second half, and I think not that Hawaii is a good defense, but I just feel a little bit more confident Hawaii at home minus 17. So that's what I'm going.
But you only need. But you only need, Drew, them to score in the 20s. If they could score 24 points, they're going to
get 15 possessions. Yeah, they're going to get 15 possessions in this game. It's going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to convert on them. But again, like Donnie said, you're going to have a lot of ability to score points here. And where is the defense going to be played by these two? I mean, Rice gave up 30 points to Prairie View. Hawaii's not a team that we ever, and with the defense,
Hawaii, 34 points in the opener when Colorado State was awful, and then Navy, a run-based team, hung 41 on them. You're right.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is until the overs don't come in. I mean, the over on Saturday went over by 40 points. You only have a real adjustment of 8-9 points here. Yeah, I'm going over the number.
By the way, Nick Rolovich took his lumps early on, and obviously it's a work in progress when you're dealing with a program like Hawaii, but I still liked his hire from day one, and I like the mindset Donnie mentioned that he's bringing here. Yeah. 4th down, we're undermanned. I don't trust our defense. We got to keep piling up points. We got to keep the gas pedal down to be able to win games and get the job done, and you go for it on 4th down. That's great coaching by Nick Rolovich, and I like the enthusiasm he's always showing on the sideline. I think you're starting to see the dividends now that Hawaii they're getting the dividends now from hiring that guy because I've liked him from day one. He's had a hard job to try to get this program to be even decent, but he might finally have an offense and a quarterback that can get them to be at least decent here in the Mountain West. Remember, they've still got to play some tough teams coming up, but we'll see how they do there. But he's at least got them upward a little bit now.
And Walter and Teddy both saying Houston had a good defensive front, which they did, and Rice was still able to score a lot. So I think you guys are on to something.
That's a good point.
Yeah, with the overs there. I guess just to change it up, I'll go on Hawaii -17. You can grab it at Bet Online or the Greek, and the overs 70.5. Only at the Greek, pretty much 71 everywhere else. Guys, we're running up against the time wise. Got to go best bets. Start off Ian Cameron. Follow him on Twitter. Ian, what do you got? Or follow him on Twitter at Babano. Ian, what do you have for best bets?
We got a team that's a bet against team to me and a team that's a bet on team to me. And it's a primetime game. We're going to go to Penn State, Pittsburgh. I was kicking myself for not going against Penn State last week. They barely slipped past Appalachian State in that football game, and now they're laying a healthy 9 points on the road here against what I think is a much improved Pittsburgh team. I think Kenny Pickett on the offensive side of the football has finally given Pitt a much better option at the quarterback spot. They had no quarterback play with DiNucci and all those other stiffs that couldn't play before that. I think that offense is better. I think defensively, you're going to see Pittsburgh really take some steps forward this season. There's no reason that defense shouldn't be better than it's been in years past. A lot of returning experience here. I know people are going to say, okay, maybe Penn State got the scare out of their system. Now they step on the gas pedal. They look great this week. But to me, we've got every bit a bet-on situation with Pitt in my mind as a team, as we do Penn State, an overvalued commodity from day one. I think Penn State struggles to win this game at all, let alone by any sort of margin. Let's go Pitt +9 for best bet.
Pitt +9 for Ian Cameron. Donnie Rightside up next. Follow him on Twitter at RightsideVP. Donnie, what do you got for best bets?
Yeah, we're going to baseball tonight. A young flamethrower at 8-10 start, 971, 972. Detroit and the Chicago White Sox. Zimmerman versus Kopesh. If you saw Kopesh last time go against Detroit, he dominated them over 6 innings. So we're going to lean on the first 5 innings here. -0.5 run, -120 at 5 dimes. I think he will do the same. I think the White Sox can touch up Zimmerman for a couple runs, maybe somewhere in that 4-2, 4-1 range after 5 innings. So I'll lean on the Chicago White Sox tonight. Run line -0.5, -120 at 5 dimes.
All right, good stuff. Donnie Rightside and Jeff Nadeau. Follow him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. He is the big man on campus. What do you have for best bets, man?
Yeah, I just wanted to throw one little piece of info out. This game doesn't have a line yet, but look at that Howard-Kent State game this week. Kent State, Donnie and I have talked about it. They're not a good football team. They're probably going to be 3-touchdown favorite against Howard. This Howard team hangs in games against D1s. That's just what they do. So keep your eye out for that. But right now, I haven't finalized my card yet, but I'm going to look towards this game. I'm going to go Northwestern -3 against Duke. This is a game for me where you have Northwestern playing with some revenge here. They're at home. Listen, this is contingent on them stopping with this stupid crap where they're taking Thorson out in the middle of the game. Clayton Thorson had a full game. He played well. I would imagine he'd be good and in this game 100%. I don't want to see Trent Green's kid coming in. I don't want to see other quarterbacks. If it's Thorson only, I'm very much interested. I like what Larkin could do in the backfield. I think Duke's a team that's going to want to run the football. I think that bodes well for Northwestern. Teams that want to go up-tempo and are going to throw at that Northwestern team, I think they'll have some issues. But against a team like Duke, I don't know that they're built to throw the football and really bother Northwestern. I think going on the road here, this is a tough ask. If Thorson plays and if he's in that whole game, which I guess really we won't know until the game starts, but with how good Northwestern's been against the number over the last few years, with how good Pat Fitzgerald's been against the number, I like Northwestern here, -3 at home. I think they take care of Duke in revenge. Give me Northwestern.
All right, Northwestern -3 for big man on campus. I'm going to go a little wild here. 3-5-1 Arkansas State +36.5 against Alabama. Nick Saban 0-6 after beating a top 25 team in week 1. He's 0-6 ATS in week 2. I think you're getting the best team in the Sun Belt with pretty good quarterback, can put it in the end zone a couple times. Stay within 5 touchdowns. Hopefully, I'm going to take a shot with Arkansas State +36.5. Guys, anything you're going to throw out in conclusion before we shut this down?
Yes. We always like to talk about betting before we end the show. Tiger Woods played 17 tournaments this year. He is 0-17 in those tournaments. Congratulations if you took out futures on.
Hey, Drew?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk about something that actually matters, something that actually means something today. Listen, if anyone is interested, we have an odd situation going on in a friendly game over in Europe. Denmark is playing Slovakia. Now, not a lot of people will have this kind of info, but me being the astute handicapper that I am, I have this info. Denmark, a team that did well in the World Cup, they have a massive problem right now with contract negotiations with their international team. None of the first team players are with this team right now. They don't have enough players. They're actually going down into the futsal ranks and taking futsal players, all futsal teams, to field the football team today. Their big players aren't playing in this game. They have a massive contract problem right now. The coach isn't even there. This is a big concern. So if you're looking at some of these international games today, make sure you're well aware of what's going on in these countries, because a team like Denmark, you wouldn't think, but you have guys with jobs that are coming in and have to play today. I mean, these are futsal players that should be on a futsal court, not on a soccer pitch. There's some real random things going on with some of these friendlies and some of these UEFA Nation Leagues games. So make sure you know kind of stuff like that.
Cool stuff, big man. Thanks for throwing that out. And you also threw out the look for Howard against Kent State. That sounds like a good one. I'm going to try to jump on as well. But for Ian Cameron, Jeff Nadeau, Donnie Rightside, I'm Drew Martin. We'll be back next Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern. Good luck with your bets this week, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.